What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the Buy the Hood podcast and webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy. And as we start off every show, that's with gratitude. Just want to say thank you specifically to all the students in Buy the Hood University. Like I say, every podcast is growing and it's going to continue to grow because we have an amazing community of people that are helping each other, move along in terms of real estate, precious metals, cryptocurrency, the stock market, options, the whole nine. Just investors and people who are looking to grow a portfolio. So shout out to everybody from Buy the Hood University. I'm joined by my partner in crime as always, Corey. Corey, what's up, bro?
What's poppin'? Everything is good, man. Every day above ground's a good day. So, we doing it.
Yes, sir. Listen, and as you guys know, our platform is designed to highlight brothers and sisters who are doing amazing work in the community, building businesses, and just doing good work overall. This brother we got coming on now is an investor and a business owner. He's doing amazing work, and we want to make sure we highlight him and let him tell his story. He's also going to be joining us on May 29th for those in the area. We're back outside in May. We're doing an event with A-Lee and the folks over there. So make sure you check us out. And Lorenzo's a part of that as well, who's also been on our podcast. Atia, who's been on our podcast, will be a part of that. Tracy, who's been on our podcast, will be a part of that, as well as the Ivy investor, Courtney. So a lot of folks that have alumni of the podcast will be speaking at this event that's coming up. But this brother right here, man, is going to tell his story and let us know what he's got going on. This is our brother, Dewain Johnson. Dewain, what's up, bro?
What's going on, fellas? It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, man. How are you, man? Everything good?
I'm doing good, man. I'm really excited. Like I told you guys a little while ago, I've been listening to the show for a while. And I'm really happy to see guys like you doing the work that you're doing, highlighting the people that are putting in the work out here. Because, we hear all the hard luck stories and all the bad things, but, you got to give people their flowers for what they're doing out here, man. Y'all done a great job of highlighting that.
I appreciate that, bro. But let's get into your story, man, because you're out here doing some amazing work yourself, man. Tell us about your background, where you from, and how'd you come up?
Sure. So I'm from Philadelphia, born and raised. I moved out of the city for the last part of high school, but I was here in Philly majority of my life. I went to Central High School. I'm from Logan.
Logan. Central High School.
Yeah, I went to Central High School.
What?
I was 258. I didn't graduate from there, but I was in 258.
That's just a quick check, though. I gotta make sure, me and Corey 254. So
I heard. I know. Okay. You hear a lot of Central people coming through the podcast.
Yeah.
And anybody that remembers me and my time at Central, they'll probably tell you I was more in the lunchroom than I was in class.
Sound like Corey. Right?
Yeah, I was in there playing dominoes.
Corey was in the lunchroom playing chess, but y'all sound like y'all had a similar story there.
Yeah,
Corey,
man.
You muted, by the way, Corey. But yeah, man. So, what'd you say, Corey?
Yeah. No, I said that was my handiwork too.
the dominoes.
Yeah, that was my handiwork too.
Yeah, man. Between that and hanging out at Mario's for no good reason.
Oh man,
yeah, I was acting up, man.
Yeah.
So that led to
grabbed me out of there one time, man. Shout out to my brother PJ. Truancy got us out of Mario.
But that's man, he's chased us out of there.
That's another story, man. But yeah, so you went to Central. You said you left, moved out.
Yeah.
Okay.
My dad got a job down in Maryland, and it was a really great thing because I needed that restart. I was headed down the wrong path. I wasn't going to class. I wasn't really focused on anything. And I look back, I don't think I was really being challenged in a way, or I just wasn't engaged the way that I needed to be engaged. But I got down to Maryland and kind of reset, and it was like a nice restart. And I started playing basketball again, and I started getting my grades together, and ultimately ended up going to college down there as well. I played a little basketball, but that focus on business really kind of started down there because I started my first business while I was in college, which was in like web design. I started a web design company back in college. But yeah, so that's kind of like the quick synopsis of my background from growing up. Grew up in Logan, moved to Maryland, came back, and I started working at the Philadelphia Parking Authority.
Okay.
In the IT department. So I handle all the systems, the network engineering, and all that kind of stuff. The website. Which is funny enough, is still up and running, the website that I did for them plenty of years ago. That's the website that's currently there.
So it's like IT and tech. Was that your passion? Or
yeah, definitely would say computers. Anything with technology involvement was definitely my passion. That's what I was interested in.
Okay.
But what I wanted to do was I wanted to translate that into a business. So while in college, my first business was doing people's homework. Right. So we always had these projects. Everybody had these projects. They had to do these little websites. And I did mine. It was like the greatest thing to them, you know. So one person was like, yo, can you just do my website? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. It's going to cost you though. Next thing you know, I did like 10, 11 websites. I'm like, oh, this is a business right here, right? So that translated to me to doing starting a web design company. So I did the web design company, and then I started adding on services like logos, and then I ultimately started adding the infrastructure and IT support. And I've been running that business from that started in my dorm room. I've been running it up to this day. So we're coming up on 20 years of that business, which is 215 Media. I've been running 215 Media for almost 20 years now.
Oh man, that's dope. That's a dope story, man. I like that. My first business was doing people's homework.
Yeah.
Hey man,
Hey, listen, that's the hustle though. Listen,
supply and demand.
there you go. So how did you get the real estate bug? Where did real estate come into play for you?
Yeah. So more than anything, my passion, like I had a passion for IT, I had a passion, but my biggest passion I would say was for business. So I always wanted to start various businesses. But what I noticed and what I kept hearing was that, all successful businessmen or wealthy people, ultimately they had one thing in common. They all had some real estate investment, as part of their portfolio. So I knew early on that I wanted to get into real estate, but I didn't know how. Right. So further, as I mentioned, I came up and I got a job. I got a great paying job, and I worked and I worked and I was saving and scraping and saving. But in my mind, I had to have all the money to buy a property. And then, a few opportunities came and went because I didn't know how to act on them. So I actually met Janelle Wilson, who I think you might have. She wasn't on the show. I think you guys have engaged at some point. But she basically put me on, and she waited till we had our first kid together to vet me and make sure I was sturdy. But after, she's like, all right, I think you're ready. And she knew that I had all the skills required for, discipline, good financial background and understanding, all the things that were required. And then she explained to me how you could, actually acquire stuff using credit, using leverage. You didn't have to have $100,000 cash to buy $100,000 property. You might need 20,000. So I had all the things going for me. I had a good understanding of business, discipline, credit. I just didn't understand the real estate part. Once I got the real estate part, it was all downhill from there.
Got you. So now, you decide you want to get into the game. Did you initially start out as wanting to be a buy and hold investor, or how did you, make that transition? Because I know before we came on, you were talking about how you buy and hold. Like your thing is buy and hold now. Was it always that way?
Yeah. I saw I'm a business management major, so I had a background in finance, so I knew right away that tax implications of the biggest thing, the biggest deterrent for me for flips was the tax implications. Getting hit right up front, getting smacked with that capital gains tax. So once I learned about the BRRRR strategy, and how you can basically, you buy this property, rehab it, rent it out, you get to keep the property, make money off of it, but still pull out substantial, pockets of cash, tax free. I'm like, I was thinking, this got to be illegal. There's no way that we can be doing this. Like, either it's illegal or they're gonna be shutting this down. So let me get in and get mine while it's still available. And I still 5, 6 years later, 7 years, I still feel that way. I'm like, man, it's just like, how is this thing still allowed?
I love that because that's like so Philly right there. Like, yo, if this is legal, let me get it now before they shut this thing down.
Yeah, man. Let me go ahead and get my pot down. Let me go get my bag.
Yeah,
it's getting hot, man. It's getting hot.
That's so Philly. But yeah. So, all right. So you get into start using the BRRRR strategy, right?
Yeah.
How was it becoming a landlord? Like, let's talk about that.
So it was interesting. My first property I bought was a single family, very simple, like most people do. They start with a single family home, and went through the rehab. Now, mind you, I was still working at the time, so I wasn't involved in the actual rehab part. So she was GC in the project for me, but I got to see like how that process played out, and then at the end to lease it up. And I was like, okay, I got a tenant. Cool, they're paying me, and then if they actually pay, and it was a PHA tenant, so it's like this money is coming to me automatically every month. Like, I don't think this person had a portion. Like, I don't think they had anything to pay. So every month I had this check coming in. And it was just like the most absurd thing to me because I'm still working. I still got my full-time job. And then I got this truly kind of almost passive, as close to passive as you can get outside of stocks. It's not passive. I don't care what nobody says. You still got work to do. You still got, systems to put in place and all that kind of stuff. But to know that somebody's living in a house and they're paying down my mortgage and they're sending me cash every month, it was just like the eye-opening situation for me. So what happened was next was I ended up buying a 6-unit building. and then 6 unit. But I know that's a big jump from 1 unit to 6 units, but it was just like one of those opportunities that was presented. And, you know, John was like, yo, you got to do this. And one thing I say about myself, I'm a great listener. You don't have to like browbeat me into doing things. If I trust you and I trust your judgment, I'm going to follow you, you know, and follow your advice. So she's like, you know, you got to get this property. And I was like, well, that property is 180 grand at the time. And, you know, it's looking back, it was like the greatest deal ever. But it was 180 grand, 6 unit, and I already had a tenant in place. So not only was I getting this property that I was going to be putting 5 more units in, while I was carrying the cost of doing the rehabs, a tenant was paying my hard money loan for me. So it's just like the crazy thing about real estate is just so many different ways that you could be creative about your finance and creative about your processes. And it's like, you know, if you really are diligent and study and are creative, you know, it's very, I won't say it's not hard to lose, but if you can position yourself to win more times than not, that's the key. It's like constantly positioning yourself to be in a winning position. And that requires diligence, education, and just constantly learning.
First off, you might be the first person I've seen go from one single family to a 6 unit. That's a crazy leap. Like, I guess that's a crazy leap. Is one.
Yeah, man.
Core, I think you muted again. But yo, also, like that idea of you know, that's just crazy to me, right? Someone's in the business, but I hear that I'm like, yo, he went from 1 unit to the next one to being a 6 unit building.
He skipped over all the numbers between.
Well, yeah, it's funny, right? But here's the thing, right? So here's the thing. You know, we all see it, the real estate mentoring and the coaching and the classes and all things that's going on, right? So you got people on this side that feel a way about it, being like, all right, it can be scammy, it's predatory and all that kind of stuff. But then you got the people over here that saying, well, wait a minute, I invested in mentoring or I received mentoring, and I can tell you how impactful that is for you.
Absolutely.
So it can be both, right? But the key is if you're going to allow somebody to mentor you and teach you all that kind of stuff, you want to vet them. Don't, you know, if that person doesn't have a portfolio, they can't advise me on how to scale to a portfolio. So I had that luxury. That was a cheat code, you know. And once, so I'll give you the numbers on that project real quick. But the numbers on it was, you know, it was acquired for 180. Maybe put 100.
Let's stop right there for a second.
Yeah,
6-unit building for 180. I'm thinking about that. Like, so you're not going to find that in 2021. So what year was this that you got this?
This was like 2000. It's not even that long ago. I think it was like 2017.
Yeah. That's even crazy for 2017. I don't know how you came across that deal, but God bless you.
Well, it actually was listed at 160, and it was such a good deal. I came in at 180 to make sure that I got it.
Gotcha.
So that was like, you're not going to find that deal now. I would, if you send it my way all day long, if you do. But yeah, I mean, that project was the game changer for me because I didn't understand going in, and it wasn't until I got through the process and saw like, all right, this is how it's going to end, and I'm coming out with that. Oh no,
because
this is what I'm about to do for the rest of my life.
We can get back to the numbers, but the reason that's like that took me back so much is because not only is it like scaling up in terms of the number of doors, but you get into commercial space. Once you get past like, you know, the 4 units, you have a whole set of rules that you have to comply with because you're talking about moving from residential to commercial. So that's why it's like such a huge leap. But that's amazing.
And the first floor was a salon, a very popular, profitable salon, and it's a long-term tenant that's still there to this day. So yeah, I mean, it was a major jump, but it took. It was a leap of faith, obviously, because now you're talking about, it's one thing to go in and you know, my first property was like $18,000. You know, so to go from buying an $18,000 property to buying a $180,000 property with $100,000 rehab ahead of me, you know, it was a leap of faith. But you know, what better time to take that leap of faate than while we're young and have that opportunity to recover? You know, what's the worst that could happen? I always like, what's the worst that could happen? I have to figure it out. I'm capable of figuring it out.
Yeah, I had a mentor tell me one time, like, you know, you complain about something. He said, well, did you die? I'm like, well, damn, that's extreme. He's like, well, what you complaining about? You know,
is you still living.
Yeah.
Man, you be all right, bro. Some dirt on it.
I get the point, though. It's kind of extreme, but I get the point. Yeah. So, so tell us about the numbers of that. So you said that it was, you know, you said they were asking 160. You put it in for 180, and you said it was a tenant there. So was a tenant that was already there, the hair salon?
Yes, the hair salon was already there operating. So that was a big deal. It definitely. I didn't have I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a mortgage to pay because it was paid for by this tenant while I'm doing a rehab. So that was a blessing in itself.
Now, was this listed on the multiple listing service or like came off market?
Yep. This came through MLS. And I had my aunt. My aunt was a real estate agent, so that was cool. She got to make a couple dollars off of the project too.
Oh, everybody eats.
Yeah. So I mean, 180. I put in maybe 100 grand, and after it was all said and done, it appraised for 450.
Man, you talk about building wealth. You just added 6 figures to your net worth for just in that one project.
Nah, like that was the one where I was looking over my shoulder, like, nah, we ain't do something right. Like something. Nah, the Fed's about to come. The Fed's about to rush. Hold up.
No, this is important. It's important to have this conversation for the folks that are listening and may have never tried this before, understand this before, that there are ways out there to really get to it, and you're doing good work because now you're providing a quality experience for your tenants. And so you're having an impact and making income at the same time, and it is possible to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then, and mind you, I'm still working at this time. I'm still working my full-time job, clocking in, clocking out. And on this, when it was all said and done, and I refinanced and I pulled the cash out, I left work. I said, "Yo, I'm going to lunch." I went to lunch and went to a closing and picked up $100,000 check.
That's a nice
lunch. Look,
I
was looking at everybody sideways when I got back to work. Like, what
you're
like, to? You know what I mean? Who you talking to? Watch your mouth, man.
He was daring him to do something like so.
Yeah, man. So that was the like, man, all right, I'm all in. But the major thing was I didn't take that $100K and go buy a car. I didn't take that $100K and go buy. I ain't run up in Gucci. I ain't do nothing crazy with it. That money, I constantly just kept pumping that money back into the business and back into investing. And I stayed at work and I shut my mouth and I tried to be humble and low key. And I kept grinding and I kept working up until 2018 while I was scaling this business up.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. People, they don't like deferred gratification, delayed gratification like that, but it's a major component of this business is that this is a snowball business. Like that 1 unit turned to 6, the 6 turned to 12 on up.
Yeah.
It didn't happen overnight. It was just a constant everyday check-in.
That's interesting, right? So you were focused, you had the discipline. Was that something that was instilled in you? So did you have any one of your parents that were investors, or where did that come about? Did it just come from your experience in reading or something? Or was it something that your parents instilled?
Well, so my parents didn't necessarily instill that part into me as far as the financial discipline. But I will say one of the pivotal moments for me was my father, and I was going to mention later, my father gave me the book, The Richest Man in Babylon.
Oh, George Clason.
Yeah, so he gave me that when I was 12 or 13. I don't even think he realized how big a deal that was going to be. I didn't know how big a deal, but just listen, it made so much sense to me. And I recommend anybody of any level read that book. It's a simple, short read, but the tenets of it are so important in life. And I started implementing, even though I didn't have any money at the time, I started implementing some of the behaviors and the beliefs of that book into how I move. So that when I did get money, I behaved like a person that always had money, not like somebody that just got it, So I would say that was the start of it. And then I've always had a hunger. I've probably read every book there is on, productivity. I'm constantly reading books on productivity. I was listening to podcasts before podcasts for podcasts. Gotcha. So I've always had a hunger for further education and not just learning the same thing. I want to learn, what does Jimmy know about it? How is he doing his? What can I take from his? And, so I constantly been aggregating that information from a variety of sources and just kind of creating my own processes and solutions that work for me.
This might be a weird question, but it's just something that came to my mind. So with your IT background and your experience in tech, how does that help you in real estate, if it does at all?
Oh, a tremendous amount. So I don't have to I could do my own research, right? So when it came time, as I started scaling up my properties and the number of units, I started getting more tenants. You get more tenants, you got more problems, you got more things to track, you got more bills to track. So when I needed to implement a system, I did it myself. I went and found out, I read up on Buildium, I tied it in to the different programs that I use and I connected it and I found I'm constantly using and all the things that I've done in IT and everything I do, honestly. And what is funny, we were a discussion about second and third level thinking, right? Being in the IT field forces you to not be limited to first level thinking. If you come to me with your laptop and say, "Hey, Dwayne, my laptop's not working," and I open your laptop and I press the power button and say, "Damn, it's not working." All right, that's all I got for you. You're not going to be happy, right? It's my job to sit there and I'm going to work on that and I'm going to figure out that problem. So constantly working in that IT field and constantly figuring out problems and solutions, not just for myself or other people, translated directly into this real estate investing thing. Because at the end of the day, it's still customer service. It's still providing solutions.
Man, you hear that, Core? He just said one
Yep.
of my favorite bars, man. I say that all the time. Every business you're in,
is a customer
no matter
service
what
business.
business you're in, is a customer service business. That is an
Yep.
absolute fact. And I'm glad to hear you say that as like a fellow landlord, because I have this like conversation with landlords all the time that we're in the customer service business, right? It's not just about making money and building buildings. You got to provide a quality experience for your tenants, and if you do that, it works best for you long term. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So okay, so now you tied into IT. Let me ask you a question that may help somebody out there who's already an investor. If you don't mind sharing, like, what are some of the softwares you use in terms of your property management? And do you manage all your own stuff, or do you hire a manager? How's that work?
So right now I'm managing everything in-house between myself and the people that help me. But I would say, in the past, I've tried to hire property management companies to manage my stuff. And I say it all the time. I spent more time managing the property managers than I did the tenants. So it's like, if I'm gonna manage a headache, I'm gonna at least not pay for the headache, So I brought it in-house. The software that I use for property management is Buildium. Buildium is awesome. I use that to allow tenants to submit their requests. They pay their rent through there, so I get a report every month, and I can just see automatically who's paid and who's behind. And the great thing about Buildium, it has add-ons. So I have one other add-on for Buildium, which is called Pay Near Me. Pay Near Me allows my tenants to go to CVS, Family Dollar. There's a couple other places they can go to and make their payments in the store if they're a cash, like they don't have a bank account for whatever reason, or they just I don't want money orders or anything getting mailed to me anymore. I don't want any checks. So if you got to pay cash or anything like that, you can go to these stores, make your payment in the store, CVS, and boom, it'll get sent to me automatically. So that probably be my biggest one. And then I use another one called Monday.com for project management because I have a variety of businesses. Monday.com allows me to set up different boards for each of my businesses so I can kind of track the tasks that are going on in those businesses.
Oh man, appreciate you sharing it. I've never even heard of Monday.com, but I gotta check that out.
Monday.com, all that. It's all
Yeah, I gotta check
that
out. I use cozy.co is the one I use.
Okay.
It's to deal with tenant requests and things of that nature and rents, but it's very similar. But I've definitely heard Buildium. The Buildium is like the big boy in the space. Yeah, but I've never heard of Monday.com. I gotta check Monday.com out. So appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, no problem. And I've been through. I'm like I said, I'm a big productivity guy, so I've been through and used a lot of the different to-do list type platforms and project management platforms. I would say Monday is probably the most intuitive that I've used to date.
Okay. So listen, you mentioned you already mentioned one book, which was The Richest Man in Babylon, but it sounds like you a self-help guy. You love self-help stuff. So here's my question to you. Give us a couple books that inspired you along your journey. Outside of we already got Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah.
Give us maybe two more. So we have a total of three.
Yeah. So there are two popular ones. The 4-Hour Work Week was a game changer for me. Tim Ferriss. I mean, just hearing about how he kind of weeds out the nonsense. Like we get so focused, there's a difference between being busy and being productive. You hear that all the time. So a lot of us will go through an 8-hour day working, grinding. At the end of the day, say, I don't think I really accomplished anything that I set out to do, anything of importance anyway. I got a bunch of stuff done, but it wasn't relevant stuff. So as I constantly find myself, following the tenets of that book. When I start my day off, I go into my inbox, I get into what I call the 3 or 4 Ds. I forget which one, but I get in. I start deleting stuff. I start delegating stuff, delaying stuff, and if all that fails, then I got to do it. But if I can get through those 3 things, then it's going to eliminate probably 50% of my inbox out the gate. If I can delete, delay, delegate, that gets me started. And then if not, I'll do it. So, and I kind of got that mindset from the 4-Hour Work Week with Tim Ferriss.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an awesome book.
Just give us one more. So we got Richest Man in Babylon. We got 4-Hour Work Week. Give us one more. That's one of your favorites.
I hate to throw out the popular ones, but they're popular for a reason. Think and Grow Rich. Because more important, probably the biggest thing for anybody that's going to be successful in any business, whether it's real estate, IT, whatever, is mindset. Like you hear people all the time say, anybody can start a business, anybody can run a business. But I hate to say it's not true. Not everybody is meant to run a business. It's not a derogatory thing, but not everybody has the same desires or mindset. Some people, like at 5 o'clock, they want to pull the plug and go home. Boom. I don't get to do that. At any given time, my phone can go off. At any given time of night, I could be working at 11 o'clock one night. I could be up at 4 a.m. next. That's just the life I chose. So if you're not built for that, it's not meant for you. But it's like the mindset thing. And Think and Grow Rich is just a great mindset book. And so I would say those are probably the two I would throw out there.
Okay, man, appreciate that, man. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. That's some good stuff, man. Another question I have for you. So you've scaled up, you've built this amazing business. You have multiple businesses, right? You still have your web design business, and you have other businesses. What has been your biggest hurdle from starting out as someone who worked in IT, followed the traditional path, and now you're building wealth and creating jobs for other people and businesses? Like, what was the biggest hurdle or something that you had to overcome?
So I think the biggest hurdle for me, and I hear a lot of people say this in Stone Block, is really myself, because when you first start off with entrepreneurial efforts and all that kind of stuff, you're used to being the lone wolf in the beginning anyway. You're so used to doing things on your own and having to figure out things on your own. And once you start scaling, there's still only one you. There's only one you. There's only so many hours in the day. So I've always struggled with the delegation part of business, trusting other people, learning what's worth my time and what I should be passing off to the next person. That's always been my biggest internal struggle. It's something I still deal with to this day. I'm getting better at it, but the earlier in the process that you can get better at building teams and trusting people and building processes so that you can kind of clone yourself and what you know to other people, I think that's probably going to be a big asset to you. And if I do one other, I would say I won't call it a burden or a hurdle, but more of a challenge is being the father of 3 kids. Because at the end of the day, none of this stuff matters to me if it's not benefiting them. So, you got all these things pulling at you. You got tenants pulling at you, you got customers pulling at you, things that need to be done. But guess who's pulling at you too is your kids, right? And guess who's going to win for me anyway? It's going to be my kids. So I won't call it a hurdle. It's a blessing, but it's also a challenge being a father.
Understood, man. Thank you for sharing that, man. And
Hey, man,
what
listen,
you said,
father of 3 to father of 3.
yeah, what you said that resonated with me was that whole delegation piece, because that's something that I still struggle with. I've been in business for multiple decades. I still struggle with that. Like, and it's probably going to be like a lifelong struggle, but you got to get over it and figure it out. Like,
because if you a doer, delegation is hard for doers.
Yeah,
like,
definitely is.
Yeah, it's funny because Malik, I talk to Malik all the time. Malik says, "Why are you doing that, man? Go hire a VA." I'm like, "No, I don't want to." He's like, "No, man." He said, "You shouldn't be doing that. You should just go get you a VA." I'm like, but that's something I struggle with.
But guess what? It's work hiring a VA, right? And it takes it's like, all right, do I take this time? But the amount of time it's going to take me to train somebody else, that's where the hang up becomes. The amount of time to train people on what I already know, it's a significant amount. But if you're going to continue to scale, you kind of got to eat that and say, all right, I'm going to sit down and make this happen. So I lecture myself about that like every day.
Yeah, it's a constant fight with me too, bro. It's like you're fighting with yourself, but yeah, man. So, man, your story is amazing, man, and I love to see fellow Lancers, man. You was there long enough. You a Lancer, man. Don't let nobody say you're not. You remembered your number and you go with your number, so you're a fellow Lancer, man. So
I still play with the Bulls that played at the time. My got family was there with me. They know I was there. I can't say I was matriculating, but I was there.
You was there long enough, bro. You was there long enough. But so Corey, you got any questions for the brother, man?
Yeah, so you said you like trying to build systems and things of that nature. So and you said your IT background helps with that. But where did you develop the I don't know, like the wherewithal to combine the things that you got going on?
Okay. Well, so most people start off one thing, and that's the thing that they're inherently going to remain, no matter what they pivot off into. So IT is working at IT. I was forced to apply processes to so many different fields. I worked with schools. I worked with churches. I worked for the parking authority. So the fact that I constantly saw how software could solve problems, and in my mind, I can always solve any problem with some kind of software or technology. So inherently, I'm going to try to solve almost any problem with some sort of technology. So it's always worked out.
Okay, that's love.
And you sound like a guy that's really into tech, right? And this is my nerd question, because I love technology too. And there's a lot of buzzwords in technology right now. You hear blockchain, AI, VR, all these different acronyms and things.
NFT.
NFT. So what excites you the most within the space of technology? What is exciting you, like when you think about the future, when you see happening? What gives you excitement as someone with an IT background?
I mean, it's been going. It's no longer in its infancy, but AI, right? So we're still talking about just how artificial intelligence is going to change everything. You know, the number of things that we can accomplish now. I was just watching on Instagram today where we talked about there was police. They sent in a robotic dog to track down a gunman. You know, we're going to see more. Obviously, you got your Teslas and the electronic cars, and you see how they're capable of making decisions like almost faster than a human can.
Yeah.
So there's going to be AI implementations in everything we're going to do. There's no way around it. And I would say that probably be the thing that most excites me about the potential of what can be done with technology.
Nice. So you probably sitting there trying to figure out how to implement AI into real estate now, right?
Man, if I can get somebody to create a robot to answer these tenant calls, we in business. They got listen. These people burn me out. I know they customers, right? It's still customer service, but they still burn me out.
All right, so listen, man. You shared your story, which is amazing, man, and we love what you're doing, man. But let me ask you this question. This is the last question I have for you. Like, in terms of in the future, moving towards the future, what is something that you want to work on? Maybe a different business, or maybe something you want to improve within your business. What's the future hold for you and your business?
Okay, so I would say for as far as the real estate, I'm still going to be focusing on. I started a couple other businesses outside of that, but as far as real estate, I want to change my my investment model, right? So like most of us, we all start off doing single families and duplexes, triplexes, and there's a lot of rehab involved in that. Like doing the rehab process is where you build up your equity and your sweat equity and all that kind of stuff, and that's where you get a lot of the gains. But now I'm really I'm kind of over the rehab process, and I want to do more acquisition of things that I can improve, value improve on properties. So like this past year, during COVID, I acquired an 8-unit building that was already occupied partially. There was like 3 units that needed to be filled in. I'd rather do that now as opposed to be doing demo and dealing with contractors, because that's another, dealing with contractors is an art in itself, and it's not an art that I like to practice. So I rather I really like the
or watches our show. No, I have or follows me on social media. No, I have a hate relationship with contractors.
They want to be the gray hairs more than tennis will. And so
you hear he said it, Cord. That's not me. He said the same thing.
That's one of the reasons.
A lot of people complain about tenants. I'm like, yo, my tenants are amazing. It's the contractor I hate.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't do rehabs. Like I buy and I move them joints. Like I have some, some properties that I hold for tax purposes, but for the most part, them joints got to move.
Yeah, listen. I don't think it hasn't crossed my mind. I'm like, man, if I just sold that, I could have got my bread. I ain't got to deal with that person. Trust me, I understand. I definitely understand where you're coming from. But that's why, like I said, if I can get around not having to deal with the contractors as much, don't get me wrong, not every contractor. I'm not talking about every single contractor, but just there's enough of them to give good contractors bad names. So I'm doing that.
My advice, anytime we get to that conversation, I tell people, look, there's room. If you have that skill set and you're good and you're a person of your word, you can make a lot of money because it's a lot of trash out there. So it's opportunity,
Yeah, man, it's much needed, man. I have a good crew working with me now, guys that I can call and rely on, but you had to go through so much to get them. That's the toughest, and that's the part that forces a lot of people out of it, because I've had the contractors run off with money, almost take me out my zone, and make me want to do stuff that I wasn't, that I ain't supposed to be doing. Yeah. We all been there, or they just don't show, they leave you hanging. So, if like you said, if you got somebody that has that skill but can also marry good business, because a lot of contractors aren't good businessmen. So if you got somebody that's contractor that can learn how to be a good businessman,
you preaching right now, bro. You preaching right now, because a lot of them, like I've met people that are excellent in their craft, but what you just said is the part they're not good businessmen, right? So then you'll find someone who's a good businessman, but their work is trash.
Right.
So you got to have.
It's an interesting thing when you ask a lot of the contractors that work for you. I have contractors that work for me and have worked for people around me. They build all these houses. We buying all these houses. They watch us build all these houses, and then you ask them where is their property, and they don't have it. And there's a reason why. They're not managing their money right. They don't have the foresight. They don't have the understanding of how to translate their skill Like their skill, which is like I couldn't imagine it. It's kind of a gift and a curse. Like I'm the least handy person you're ever going to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
I celebrate the simplest of things. Like if I change the locks, oh, you can't tell me nothing,
Who
right?
you talking to? It's like
But
a
it's a
party in my crib. If I just like put
yeah.
if I hang a picture on the wall, the whole world about to know about it.
I fixed the garbage disposal over there. I almost booked a vacation, man. Like I earned that. Earned that. You know what I mean? So, but it's cool because if I had that skill, guess what I would be doing? I'd be in my rehabs doing stuff instead of analyzing deals and working on the business. I'd be in the business. So it's a gift and a curse. So that's the key. I'm doing that, trying to do the value add stuff, and then I'm also working on syndication. I want to start syndicating now because like I've had a chance to make my life better. I've had a chance to make my family life better. I've acquired wealth, and now I'm in a position where I can take what I've learned, share that with others, and maybe we can, as a community, continue like we were talking about earlier. It's amazing to see how many people are investing in our community now. The conversations that are being had now that never used to be had. So I want to be able to further that with actual opportunities that I can work with other people on, and while at the same time taking our wealth to the next level.
Man, powerful, bro, powerful, man. And first of all, before we get out of here, I just want to say thank you for your time and also much continued success, man. Like what you're doing is very powerful, man. Absolutely, man. Corey, you got any last words before we get out of here, bro?
Yo, just keep moving the bar forward, man. Like you really like, I'm watching, the people that come through our show. I'm proud that, you know what I mean, of the work that y'all do, you know what I mean? Because it makes all of us, it makes everything a little bit better for all of us.
Absolutely,
For sure.
man. Absolutely.
And I just want to reiterate, man, salute to y'all, man. Salute to y'all, because y'all highlighting this kind of stuff. It gets more exposure to it, and it makes more people see that it's possible. And that's what we need. We need more of this and the less of the negativity that's constantly put in front of us every day.
Appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that, man.
Appreciate you.
And for the folks watching, listen, all of us will be live in action May 29th. Telling our stories and sharing information with the folks. So I'll put the link to that event within the description as well as the show notes. I'm also going to put the link, to all Dewain's social media and everything, so you can check out what he's got going on. Build with him and see him as he continues to grow. In all his businesses. So, just want to say thank you for your time, bro. Much continued success, and I look forward to sharing the stage with you as we try to pour into the folks, man.
For sure, for sure. I look forward to meeting you guys in person.
Absolutely, man. For the folks out there watching, man, as we always say, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. Game elevates, and we shall see you guys on the next episode. Peace.